As individuals and society as a whole, we must be careful from reaching premature conclusions. A conclusion is the end or finish of an event or process. It comes from the Latin concludere, which combines con, completely, and caudere, to shut. It means you're finished, you're done, you know the truth, quote unquote truth, or the process is completed. I'm sure there have been many times where you've met an individual. Maybe somebody was dating them. Maybe they were at your workplace, your place of worship, your neighbor, so on and so forth. In the initial stages of meeting them, for whatever reason, maybe they gave off a bad vibe. Maybe they had resting bitch face. Maybe you've heard stories from other people. You concluded initially that that person was unpleasant. That person was not kind. However, over time, as you got to know the person, you might have changed your opinion and concluded that person was pleasant, that person was palatable, that person was not too bad. That's because you changed your conclusion as the evidence or the circumstances changed. We don't do that many times when it comes to our way of thinking, of how we view the world, as evidence is presented. That's because our ancestors primarily got us here through survival. 99.9% of all species to ever walk the earth have gone extinct. The way you survive is by making quick decisions. When you're hunting for an animal, you have to make a quick, decisive conclusion of if you're going to get that animal. And then when you get that animal, you have to be fast and quick and decisive in giving it to your tribe, your children, your village, so on and so forth. Same thing when you're looking at what food to eat. You had to disseminate between this berry, that leaf, so on and so forth. We're not really evolved to reason things out. More or less, we just make quick decisions. We don't think about those decisions and we go with them. You also have to factor in that your emotions are tied to your opinion in many cases. If you support a politician or a political party, you vote for that said politician, you campaign for them, whatever, you're more inclined to view them in a positive light. Even if they enact a policy that you disagree with, you are more inclined on an emotional level because your ego is in the way to support that particular politician, especially since that politician is quote unquote on your side. We as a country now view things on the premise of not what's best for the country and its citizenry, but what gives my team blue, team red, the best chance to embarrass the other side. You turn on your favorite news source, Fox, CNN, whatever, they make fun of the other side. It's the equivalent of seeing your favorite football team. Say you like the Dallas Cowboys. You root for the Dallas Cowboys. You're not rooting for the rest of the NFL. Anytime they're rivals, the Eagles, the Giants, the Redskins, or whatever they're called now, the Gladiators, the Washington football team, Caucasians, I don't know, whatever the hell they're called now. Anytime they do bad, you laugh, you get pleasure, you get dopamine because it makes your team better. Instead of actually evaluating each event or each person objectively, you're looking at what's best for your side. Any news story is like that now. The Joe Rogan and Neil Young story is the same way. Neil Young, for those of you that are unfamiliar, asked Spotify to either remove him or Joe Rogan. Now, Neil Young is an old rocker. On the flip side, Joe Rogan has probably, based upon viewership, the largest podcast right now in the world. Spotify is a corporation. Their goal is to make money. They don't care either way, particularly. They removed Neil Young. You have people that didn't even listen to Neil Young, that didn't even think about Neil Young, that are now outraged, that are now angry, that are now totally befuddled because their side took an L. On the flip side of that, you also have other individuals who never listened to Joe Rogan, who didn't even know who the guy was, but because he is quote unquote on their side, they take pleasure in the victory, in the win. When your ego is tied to your opinion, when it's tied to your team, when you're debating somebody, if that person presents facts, evidence, logic, and reason that trumps your facts, evidence, logic, and reason, it is your instinct to insult that person through ad hominem attacks, totally laugh and discount what they're saying, instead of looking into what they're saying. It doesn't mean you have to agree. What I typically do is if I'm debating somebody and that person offers some valid points, I tell them, that's very interesting. Where did you get that information? I genuinely would like to learn more. And then I take time to research, to look into what they're saying. And instead of my premature conclusion that I formed, I can have a more vivid, I can have a more concise opinion. This is also prevalent in stage one thinking. People do not think of the initial, well, rather they think of the initial outcome, but they don't think of the long-term consequences. We see this in dating. I've seen my friends do this on a plethora of occasions. They meet somebody who they are physically attracted to. They are infatuated with the person. They mistake infatuation for love. The honeymoon stage, the butterflies, is infatuation. You're not in love with that person. Love takes time to grow. You might love them on a human level, but loving them deeply is not possible. It takes time. They have nothing in common with that person. They don't have the same comedy. They don't have the same vibe. They don't view the world in the same way. They're not into sports. They're not into anything. However, they end up getting with that person because of lust and infatuation. They don't think of the long-term consequences. They have sex without a condom, and then you're tied forever to that person who you have nothing in common with, who you don't think the same way as, and it creates a big kerfuffle for everybody involved. Same thing in politics. You vote for this politician because you want to beat the other side, or you support this policy like NAFTA, and then it ends up removing most of the manufacturing good jobs and way of living from the United States. It is impossible. It is estimated because that we, let me get my train of thought here. It is estimated that we make in an average day over 10,000 choices. When you're driving, when to back out of the driveway, when you wake up, whether it's you get out of bed, brush your teeth first, eat breakfast. You can't sit down and evaluate every little choice. But the big important choices like who you're going to marry, what politician you're going to support, where you're going to invest your money should be evaluated and reevaluated on multiple occasions. You should be asking for advice. You should be getting input that you agree, disagree with. And instead of establishing a premature conclusion, you should continue to not conclude. But that's just my 2 cents on it. Because anytime you make a premature conclusion, you have kids out of wedlock, you commit a crime, you end up doing something that the rest of society, in many cases, has to pick up the bill for. But that's just me. That's just my 2 cents. What do I know?